What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Scale News Update. If you're not familiar with the show, this is where we talk about the news topics that happened in the scale world of RC over the last week. If you enjoy the Scale News Update, hit the like button and let's jump into this week's topics. First, for this week, Axial released a commemorative edition SCX 24 Betty. This is to commemorate Axial's 15 years in business. This is a version of the SCX 24 that looks like Axial's very first kit release, which was the AX10 Scorpion, which had the B17 Betty body on it. Now, this obviously different than the original AX10 Scorpion. It's not a TVP style crawler. It's a scale truck, but they did a nice job with the body, and they did miniature rock lizards and wheels that looked very similar to the original AX10. Those of us that remember the beginning of the crawling boom starting with the AX10 Scorpion will have a fond place in our hearts for this SCX 24. You can pre-order these now. They are a limited edition. They're serial numbered 1 through 9,999, I believe. So there's a limited number of them. I got mine on order the very first day that these got announced. Along with the release of this SCX 24, they also had a documentary that they put out with the first 15 years of Axial kind of being covered, some of the very early days. Matt Carney, one of the original founders of Axial, was in there and kind of told a lot of the story, as well as Randall, who's been there from the early days and is still currently there as a product manager, and then some of the people who are now on board after the Horizon merger, such as Rich Trujillo and Todd Hodge. So definitely worth sitting down and watching that documentary. It was a cool piece to kind of go back and listen to the whole story again. I'll link below where you can pre-order the SCX 24 and where you can watch the video. Next, we've got a new release from Proline, and this is the worst kept secret from Proline ever. It's the Megalodon body, the Blake Wilkie Megalodon inspired body for the Slash platforms or any other two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, short course style buggy. But this is offered in two different colors or finishes, whatever you want to say. One is the all black tough color version, and then one is a typical clear Lexan body that you paint yourself. The tough color one comes with some interesting decals. One is a Blake Wilkie profile from the side, and then there's another one for the windshield itself. Definitely a totally different approach than I've seen Proline ever take before, but a fun twist on it. And then of course the clear body, you can finish it however you desire, but these things definitely a cool, freshen up to a short course platform if you have one and are looking to do something new. Next, something for you Element owners. If you bought an Element previously, one that wasn't the Gatekeeper specifically, then the aluminum panhard mounts that were made and released on the Gatekeeper are now available separately. These are a much better design than Element's original take at their panhard setup. This fixes the issues that they had previously. It's adjustable. If you pick up this mount, which is very affordable, like under 15 bucks, then you will also need to pick up the plastic shock tower set. You only need to put on the front set since that'll keep you at basically stock geometry. But if you pick them up, it'll also give you the rear shock mounts, which are in a completely different location than the normal Element Enduro shock mount. If you have an Enduro, this would be something I would highly suggest picking up. I'll link below to both the aluminum parts and the shock tower set. It's a must-do upgrade to an Element if you already haven't had to find a solution to stop breaking panhard mounts. Next, there was a release posted from FTX of the new Texan Outback. Funny name, but this is another scale chassis release from FTX. Now, FTX normally not one to develop their own platforms, and this looks to be very similar to one of the RGTs, which is normally along the lines of what they are using as a base. This one does have some changes though. It does appear to have some inner fenders on the front end that kind of integrate the shock towers into it. But beyond that, a lot of the other parts are very similar to the RGT. This FTX though does have a more forward mounted battery tray compared to the RGT that it looks like it's based off of. It has a very Power Wagon-esque body placed on it, and then it's got a plastic truggy style cage. Now the wheelbase on this thing is short at just over 11 inches. So definitely not the standard 12.3 inch wheelbase setup, but it does have some kind of 5-inch tall KM3 looking tires on it. Overall though, it's got a front motor mount, divorce transfer case, some interesting specs. Now, the one thing is that it shows to be 329 pounds, which if you convert to USD, which most of my audience seems to be in, then you're at like $415. Taking this thing and pretty much taking it out of the running of being a very viable option for most people here in the US. You can just buy most likely a much better car for less money. Maybe if you're in Europe, this is a more reasonable option, but in the US market, kind of a swing and a miss. However, the RGT that it looks like it's based on, you can get it in the CJ model, which kind of like a bad version of a Willys. It's only about $260. Now, it doesn't have those inner fenders. The body doesn't look as good. Overall, it's an okay looking car at best, but it is considerably cheaper. But if either of those two for some reason are just must-haves for you, then I've linked them both in the description below. Next, an exclusive to Horizon Hobby from RC 4-Wheel Drive. This is a white version of the TF2 in an almost ready to run format. So completely built, no electronics installed. Everything else seems to be pretty much on par with the other RTRs. It's a single speed transmission, the same wheels, tires, everything like that, except you do get this white painted body. Painted bodies aren't all that common with RC 4-Wheel Drive. The Marlin crawlers just molded in red. I think the only TF2 they've done painted before was the BF Goodrich version, which was the red, white, and blue. But if you've been looking for a new TF2, and white happens to be your color, this ART-R version is $429, and again, only available from Horizon Hobby. I'm not sure if that also is going to mean through their dealer network, or if you're gonna have to buy Horizon Hobby direct. I'll link the item in the description below. If you're trying to buy through one of your local hobby shops, you can show them the listing, see if they can get it for you. Next, just before I started filming, this release came out from Redcat, and this is the 6.4 1964 Chevrolet Impala lowrider. Now, I've seen custom lowrider RCs in the past. This is the first time I've ever seen a production model. Now, the last few days, I've been seeing rumblings of this from somebody who looks like they were working with Redcat on this, and they actually have their name on the blue edition of this 6.4. But I had seen it, said that pre-order was coming. I was like, okay, I'm gonna see if about covering this in the news. And then right before I started filming, the press release from Redcat came out showing that this is actually their vehicle. This shows it listed as a 1/10 scale, but Redcat put together a really nice web page for this model. Actually, a couple of them, one on Redcat Racing site and one on RC Lowriders, which appears to be a completely new website just for this vehicle. But on the Redcat site, there's a number of kind of body off shots and things like that. It shows a photo of the actual chassis that lays underneath. It's kind of a scale ladder frame chassis. It looks appropriate to a 64 Impala. I'm not saying it's super accurate because I don't know what a 64 Impala frame looks like exactly, but it looks like something you would see under a vehicle like that. The suspension on this is controlled by servos. The front has a single shared servo that kind of has a cantilever system that goes to the center, and then a fast servo is what actually creates the jumping effect. So if it's going to be about timing, you're going to have to control it on this radio that Redcat put together. It's a pretty decent looking radio, well laid out as far as button labeling and assignments, but to get it to do this hopping thing, I assume it's going to take some practice and timing to get everything just perfect. The rear does appear to be independently controlled with 2 servos rather than 1. So that's how you are able to get the 3-wheel motion or lift the rear, slam the rear, however you're going to do it to try and get all of the lowrider poses, dances, stances. I don't know. What are lowrider moves called? Either way, it's cool to see Redcat jump into this thing that's completely different. Like, it's just a whole different market. No one has ever done this in a production version. Maybe there's been a Walmart toy, something like that, but I don't think for sure that it had the hopping effect that this thing has and be a functional RC. The body details on this thing look great. It's got an interior, doesn't have any depth to it, but I'm assuming that there's quite a bit going on underneath of the body that is having to be packaged when you have well, 4 servos, because you have to have a steering servo, the front jumping or suspension servo. Then you have 2 rear servos for independent control. So 4 servos, the motor, ESC, receiver. There's a lot going on underneath of there. I don't necessarily blame them for having to kind of cover that interior up a little bit higher. Along with the release of this, they've also linked a Thingiverse page where you can 3D print some extra accessories. They've got the typical like lowrider metal things that go in the rear windows. There's a name for those, I'm sure, that I don't know. Also, there's an option if you want to cut the entire roof off of the model, and then they have like a scale cover that goes over the back where the top would retract in a convertible version. Now, the price on this thing is $599. Not cheap, which I think the big question is, and I think the best question for the week would be, do you think that you could see yourself having enough fun for the money? $599, not inexpensive. There's a lot going on inside of it though. Do you think that you can see that amount of enjoyment out of this vehicle for what you have to pay? And I think that will be a big thing. Now, Redcat states on their site, limited quantities available. So maybe they are wondering the same thing and didn't necessarily order huge on this first batch. I don't know. I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see how many of these get purchased. By just the initial reaction of people sharing it and the amount of people that I had got messages from to cover it in the Scale News, like people are excited, but will they act with their wallets? Either way, props to Redcat for stepping outside of the box and just diving into something totally different. But more than the Facebook reactions, I still really looking forward to seeing what you guys think if this is something you could see yourself buying. Last week I was back with all of the live streams again. This week, same thing. Wednesday, Matt and I live stream takeover. Should have a special guest this week. Get everything finalized on that, but make sure you watch out for that. 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on all of my live streams. Wednesday, live stream takeover. Friday night live. Nicole and I pick something to build or work on or spill. You never know. And Sundays for STL Sunday or 3D Printing Sunday. Last week we worked on a scale like functioning kind of shock absorbing exhaust setup for no prep cars, which turned out pretty well. And we also worked on a vintage style scale refrigerator for your scale garage or your desk or whatever you have in mind. So make sure you check those out. Always have a lot of fun with those. Remember, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Also, don't forget to enter the 50,000 subscriber giveaway. We've hit 50,000. I'm just finishing everything up. I know it's taking longer than when I actually hit it, but since only one person's gonna win at the end anyway, might as well stretch it out, make sure that it's the truck I wanna give away in the end and give you guys the content before it goes to its new owner. But make sure and hit the link below for where you can enter in that. That does it for this week. I just got a message with a new release. Breaking news. JConcepts just released a new body. This is my actual first reaction. They released a new body called the Lloyd. It is called the Lloyd. I know I'm dense sometimes with JConcepts names, and like I miss something obvious like a play on Gravedigger or things like that in the past. But what does the Lloyd mean? What is a... All I think about is Dumb and Dumber. What, I mean, I'm only seeing one photo, and I mean, pick what body are you running? The Lloyd. This is the JCI. This is the JCI M117 Lloyd. I don't know. Pick this body up if you like it. I can't. somebody Photoshop this? Is this a joke? Thanks for watching the Scale News update on this very special Tuesday. I hope this was a small break in your day from the craziness that is surrounding us all currently. So with that, thanks again for watching. Truly appreciate it. I hope you all can have a great rest of the week. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.